Hey, how's it going? My name's George and welcome to my channel. We're still in lockdown here in Australia, so I thought it was a great opportunity to create a video on my top 5 favourite destinations to explore in New South Wales. Now, you may be in Australia or in New South Wales at the minute and you're in lockdown. Keep going, we're not too far away. And this could be a great video to spark some inspiration. I think it's a really good idea to have a trip planned or something to look forward to. So hopefully you get some value from this video. And you also may be watching this if you are outside Australia. So the international borders are closed at the minute, but it's not going to stay that way forever. So hopefully you can plan your trip around New South Wales, especially if you're visiting Sydney. Most of these trips are only a few hour drive from Sydney. Yeah, if you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up and leave any comments below on future videos or any other destinations which you think are the best to visit in New South Wales. And I will also include a timeline at the bottom of the video so you can skip to the 5 different places. And at the end of the video, I'm also going to mention some honourable recommendations. They didn't make it into my top 5, but travelling and trips, they're all very subjective. And I might like things which are different to you, but all these different destinations have different activities and they also have a different experience depending on how you stay. So if you're camping, staying at a hostel, if you're staying in a nice hotel, Airbnb, I kind of like to mix it up. A lot of these were pure camping holidays, but some of them were in nice hotels or Airbnbs. If you're in Australia, booking.com is a really good place to find cheaper accommodation, which has 0 cancellation fees, which is really nice. There's another really cool website called ripperride.com. I'll link it below. And it gives some really good ideas on unique experiences in when you book accommodation. I think it's in New South Wales and also in Victoria. Not sure if it's across all of Australia, but yeah, it's an awesome website. A really good friend of mine recommended it. I'd highly encourage looking on there for some unique experiences. And let's jump into the video. So at number 5, we'll start in that order. At number 5, you've probably heard of this one before, and it's Byron Bay. I just really don't think you can go wrong with the trip to Byron if you haven't been before, or if you have, you can go back. Awesome place to learn how to surf. The surf is really soft, and the waves are really, really long. I went there a couple of years ago now, but it's got an amazing vibe. It has lots of cool places to eat. It has that really relaxed vibe. You get some really good musicians play down on the seafront down there. Also some really nice bars, some nice hikes. Go up to the Byron Bay Lighthouse. The only thing I'd say about Byron Bay is it's pretty popular for a very good reason. So you may want to stay just outside of Byron and travel in. There's some really cool places around Byron as well, which if you do some research online, you'll stumble across them. And yeah, it's just like a must to do on a road trip or a weekend away. I think a long weekend in Byron is a really good amount of time to spend there. But it has been very popular, and I've got a feeling it's going to be really popular post-lockdown. So maybe wait 6 months, a year until that buzz has died off before booking your trip there. At number 4, it's a road trip called Waterfall Way. Now, Waterfall Way, if you haven't heard of it, it goes from Coffs Harbour through to Armidale and is absolutely stunning. We went there with the intention to camp. What we did, it was our first real camping holiday. We had no idea how to camp. We just sort of bought a tent and we went over the Christmas, New Year time, and we got caught in the most horrendous thunderstorm. And the rain was pretty intense, but it was really fun. I got quite ill from it, which wasn't that fun afterwards. I picked up some virus. I don't think it was the virus which shall not be named. Yeah, I didn't feel too good after that trip, but during the trip, there's some free camping you can do. And we also bought a gazebo to try and keep the rain off, but yeah, everything's got absolutely drenched. We called it a bit early, but I still think it's an honourable mention. Well, it will still make my top 5 just because it was such a fun trip. And I feel like if you went with good weather and you want to go camping, there are also motels and stuff along the way, but it's awesome for like hiking, nature, scenery. Yeah, it's just a real fantastic experience, and it's more in like the countryside of Australia rather than just looking at like the coastline. So yeah, that was number 4. Number 3 is Orange. Now, there are lots of country towns around New South Wales, and there are also lots of really good wineries. For me, Orange was my favourite. I just loved how friendly everyone was. It's a beautiful town. The wine was awesome. We stayed in a really nice Airbnb. So I definitely searched Airbnb for Orange. And the second part to Orange, which I didn't really know about, was the history around gold mining. So it used to be a huge gold mining town, and you can still do lots of walks and hikes through the old mines and around the area. So if you're interested in looking for gold, it's just a real fantastic experience. And again, you're out in the country. It's different to the usual trip. It's probably about a 4 or 5 hour drive from Sydney. But yeah, Orange is just a real fantastic weekend. You also have Mudgee, which is pretty near. It's a couple of hour drive from Orange, I think, but Mudgee and Orange are like the 2 big ones. But I haven't been to Mudgee, so I couldn't comment. So I put Orange in my top 5. And yeah, there's another winery or a wine destination which I'll do my honourable mentions. But yeah, Orange was my favourite one. I heard it snows there as well in the winter, so that could be quite cool. And yeah, definitely book a wine tour up there if you're into that kind of thing. Cool. So my number 2 spot, wow, we're flying through these, which is good, would be Thredbo. So if you're into skiing, then Thredbo is like a must to do in Australia. It's pretty expensive. Actually, it's very expensive, like a lot of things in Australia, but it's all relative. Skiing is just expensive. Like the lift pass, a couple $100 a day. Accommodation's a couple $100. So you're looking at, $500 minimum just for accommodation and ski passes to go for the weekend. So it's an expensive one, but I was so shocked at how good the snow was. The après ski was really fun. I just went with a really good group of people. Shout out if you're watching this. But yeah, Thredbo's awesome. And that whole Mount Kosciuszko National Park is just absolutely fantastic. So you can actually go in the summer, and that's what I want to do this summer. You can actually hike up, I believe you can hike up some of the mountains around there. And yeah, it's just beautiful. So you can go in the summer or winter, depending on what sort of climates you like. But yeah, fascinating. It's only like a 5-6 hour drive from Sydney, and the snow is just awesome. But yeah, hiking this summer there would be really cool. And you also have, so you have Thredbo. Oh, you have Thredbo or you have Perisher. They're like the 2 big ones. I've only been to Thredbo, so that's why I chose that one. But yeah, you also have the option to either stay on the mountain, which what we did. We had quite a few of us in an Airbnb, or you can stay in Jindabyne and then drive to the mountain. So that'd be a bit cheaper. Cool. My number 1 is the Blue Mountains, and it's probably the closest one to Sydney, apart from another honourable mention. But for me, the Blue Mountains is just like, it's really magical. It's only an hour and a half, 2 hours from Sydney. You can drive there. You can also get the train. So depending if you're on your own or you don't have a car, yeah, you can get the train all the way into Katoomba, and then you can walk to like a hostel, or you can stay in a hotel there, and you can actually walk to the hikes, like the Three Sisters and the Grand Canyon, I believe it's called. It's really cool. And there are just some really fantastic hikes. You can obviously research into the Blue Mountains specifically. I went there with my cousin Matt from Walk Wild. He's got his own YouTube channel, I'll link it below. But yeah, we went there, and that was an awesome trip. I've also been there with Rach a couple of times, and yeah, we've stayed in some really fantastic accommodation. One of those, what I mentioned earlier, Ripper Ride, we found some like off the grid like huts in the mountains, and it was just so cool. It didn't have electricity, like as in like mains, it's all solar, and didn't have phone signal. And yeah, for that experience, it's so strange living in this like digital heavy world, but it's so relaxing not to be disconnected. And then, you know, coming back a few days later and you get all these messages coming through. It's just really nice to have that time to pause. So yeah, Blue Mountains would be my number one. Like, you could go for a day trip, you can go for a weekend. I think you can do a lot of it in an extended weekend. And again, you can either camp, you can hike, you can stay in Airbnbs, Ripper Ride, that's where I got that really cool accommodation from, and Booking.com. I also found some really good accommodation. We stayed in this like loft conversion, which was awesome. And yeah, they were my top 5. Honourable mentions: Jarvis Bay, a bit further south, awesome. Port Stephens is also brilliant. Lots of dolphins and wildlife there, which is pretty cool. And yeah, the other winery I'd say would be Hunter Valley, which is, excuse me, sneeze in this day and age, would be the Hunter Valley. We stayed in some fantastic accommodation called Tucker's Lane, which actually treated me for my birthday. I'll link that below. Yeah, Tucker's Lane accommodation, you have to stay there. It's converted shipping containers, and it's like 5-star resort, which is really cool. Yeah, you can obviously do wine tours. I think you do walks. But Orange was more of a unique experience, but Hunter Valley is a very close second for me for places to go. It's a lot closer to Sydney as well, so if you are in Sydney, then it kind of makes sense. And another one which is a bit underrated would be the Central Coast. It's so close. It's like you can get there in just over an hour from Sydney, and there are so many like cool beaches and hikes and national parks, and they're all really close, and no one really talks about it. Like, I was lucky enough to move there. My partner Rach is from there, so we moved there for a few months, and I got to do tons of hiking and exploring around the area. So you have Terrigal, which is like the equivalent to Bondi up there. Like, it's a lively beach town. Or you can stay in a more like chilled out place. You can go camping. Wallara National Park's awesome. I got tons of videos on loads of hikes which you can do on the Central Coast. So if you want like a more chilled out weekend, which is pretty close to Sydney and relatively unexplored, then I would say the Central Coast is a really good honourable mention if you're looking for trip ideas. And the last one would be a staycation in Sydney. So if you're in your city, depending if you're in Canberra or if you're in Newcastle, if you're in Sydney, these are obviously all great cities to visit as well. But if you're actually in that city, just do a staycation, especially in Sydney, like, because I live here. We've done a couple. We've stayed at the Four Seasons, and we've also stayed at the Sir Stamford Hotel. They were actually for both our 30th birthdays. And yeah, it was just absolutely fantastic. Like, the city is just, when you stay there, it's just such a beautiful city with lots going on. And if you're living in Sydney, you may want to get out, but I wouldn't rule out a staycation when lockdown is ending. I think you'll get some really good rates on hotels, and you won't have to travel too far. I think there's going to still be restrictions in place, so while that's all easing, I think a staycation is like a sort of a bonus tip to bear in mind. Cool, so they were my top 5 destinations in New South Wales. Obviously there are tons more, and if you have any ideas, leave them in the comments below. But yeah, it's such a beautiful state. Hopefully this has given you some inspiration ideas on how to plan your travel when you come here. So yeah, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button for some future videos when we are free to travel around. And yeah, if you're an existing subscriber, welcome back. Thanks for watching. Give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers.